Well, what do we have here? It is 5 cassette tapes and their corresponding boxes, which is very satisfying, and the blank space that I will use for the thumbnail later. And this series is called 5 Tapes, 1 Video. People who know. What I'm going to do in this series is, well, I've recently been buying some tapes, and I could go through the boxes, but there's not actually that many very interesting tape models in these boxes. They're just kind of nicely priced and generally in pretty good shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a couple of tapes every now and then, and just make a video of 5 tapes. Some are more common, like this TDK SA or the TDK-D. Then there's a Memorex that I never saw before that I've been warned for actually on the internet because I posted a photo of these already. It's supposed to be bad. There's the BASF Chrome Super 2, and then for a bit of a laugh, there's a Yoko in there. And Yoko is one of those cheap brands that I think they sold mostly in Europe. I'm just gonna record the same 2 minutes of music to the tapes and then compare them. In order to make it somewhat scientific, I'm using an Iowa ADF 800, which has a bias control. And I'm recording every tape with the first peak of the music, of the selection of music, up to exactly plus 3 dBs. This is what most tapes should be able to handle, and that way we can see if they distort or don't. And we sort of will have the same noise levels. After that, the tapes go into the computer, and I will normalize them all to exactly minus 1 dBs, so they're all the same level. And you should be able to hear all the differences as good as possible. I chose a deck with adjustable bias, because otherwise you'll get loads of mismatches. And also, should this deck ever give up the ghost, it's kind of nice to have a deck that I can adjust to the tape, so I can just switch to another deck. It won't be perfect then, but at least it will get as close as possible. The music selection will be YouTube audio library, because music rights. Not too exciting, but it's 4 different tracks, half a minute of each, all different genres, and all sounding pretty good with all of the highest mids and lows, so you have a bit of a reference. Now, I'm sure people are going to disagree with the selections, but it needs to be stuff that I can actually use in the video without getting demonetized. I'm not even monetizing my videos, but thinking ahead here. And it's also stuff that I need to be able to listen to time and time again, because I plan to do a lot of these videos. I myself will be doing the listening through these AKG K601s, also to check for dropouts, because many of these tapes will be used. And I try to find the best example of the tape models I have. Sometimes that still doesn't mean they sound great, because some tapes just aren't great, but I try to give you a reasonably good example of what this tape can sound like. So let's do listening first. I'll be playing them in the order of the stack I have here. So the TDK SA first, then the TDK-D, then the Memorex, the BASF, and finally the funny Yoko. After you've all listened to the tapes, I'll come back to talk to you about what I think about them, and you can give your opinions in the comments below. So this is actually my favorite kind of TDK SA. I think this is when they were at their best. Also the prettiest shell. Still not the biggest fan of SA. It's a very reliable tape and you got all your highs, mids and lows pretty much. But the mids always lack attack. I always think they're a bit uninspiring sounding, especially in snare drums and like the resonating tones in guitars. You really hear that very well. They're always a bit, they don't really convince me. Highs are good, nothing exciting, a bit thin but good. Lows are a bit boxed in. I don't think this is the best sounding tape out there, but they are very consistently usable. And most people were very happy about these because of the reliability and the fact that they did reasonable highs, and they weren't very expensive when new. The TDK-D has been my favorite budget tape for a very long time and still is. Even the RTM Fox that is now released cannot hold a candle to this, I think. Yes, it's pretty noisy. And yes, you have a bit of a high roll off. It doesn't quite get the transparency of many of the more expensive tapes. But then the low end is really nice. It has a certain grain to it that is also in the original recording that you often lose with tape. It sort of smoothens it out. This doesn't do that. You have all of the grain in the low end. It's loose, it's heavy, it's all there. The mid-range is very nicely defined. It's got a very nice attack to it. It's never holding back, if you know what I mean. The highs are really what's lacking. And if you listen carefully, you hear a slight bit of distortion on the loudest low end, which is because this tape cannot handle plus 3 dBs with that much low end that easily. It could maybe on a deck that did even more precise biasing, but on this deck you can hear that a lot of low end, with the reggae track especially, on plus 3 dBs, it's a bit much for this tape. So I was warned for this Memorex tape and I'm still not quite sure why. I am honestly pretty impressed. It's the most natural sounding of all of them, spoilers there. It's never hyped in any way. It's nice and smooth sounding without losing any details. The highs are beautiful. The mid-range is incredibly open. It just doesn't handle the bass very well. Have you noticed? It sounds good, the bass, but it distorts very easily, even though it's recorded at the same level as all of these other tapes. And this is a chrome tape, and they actually call it chrome, so I suppose, I can't smell anything, but I suppose it's not like a Super Evelyn, like the TDK SA, standing for Super Evelyn. So this is probably a true chrome tape, and it's not convincing when it comes to how loudly you can record it, which is weird for a chrome tape. Then it is a very late tape. It even has a web address on it, memorexlive.com. I'm not sure if that still exists. So it's probably not an expensive tape, but I like the shell, I like the look of the tape. And if you don't record it too loudly, it actually sounds really good. I would not go over plus 1 dBs with this one, especially not if you have a lot of low end. But the noise floor is pretty low, so it doesn't really matter that much. It's a good tape. I don't see the problem here. You can tell it's cheap from the box. It's all a bit, your typical cheaply made, flimsy, thin paper box. So it's probably a pretty cheap tape, and I am not disappointed. I prefer it over other cheap chrome tapes like the Maxell UR. That's a ferric tape, isn't it? Or is that chrome? Other cheap tapes than like the UR. I think this is a pretty damn good tape, actually. From this batch, I think this is the best tape. Now, I used to buy these new, and I know they don't like being recorded over and over and over again. 2, maybe 3 times, and then they're starting to show dropouts. So be careful with that. Maybe it was just the ones I had, but I bought loads of them, so I guess not. The BASF Chrome Super Quality 2. Beautiful low end. It handled it with ease, nice and loose. The mid-range is absolutely great. It's very transparent. It doesn't quite have the attack of the TDK-D and the Memorex, so it's a bit boring sounding compared to that, but it's absolutely fine. And the highs are among the best of this. Well, they are the best actually of this bunch, because they are never aggressive, but they have all of the detail without any of the sharpness. This is a really good tape. Just make sure you don't record it too often. Highly recommend. And these weren't expensive new again, so that makes it even better. Now I lost the box. Oh no, it's going there. There we are. I know what you're saying. You're saying, why did you record this one so quietly compared to the rest? The VUs were barely getting past minus 7 dBs. Yeah, well, that is because I did record them just as loud as the rest. It's just that nothing got onto this tape. I could have recorded it louder and I would have gotten up to 0 dBs at maximum. It didn't matter how loud I would go, but it was all distortion. So I figured to give the tape its best shot, I would record it at plus 3 dBs, and I would be left with -10 to -7. And you may think, well, you probably just got a bad one. But behind my tea, which I'm choking on, there's more of them. Here's one, and this is one, and here's another one. I'm still holding the one we started off with, right? And here's one, and there's one. So I tried these all. This was the best one of the bunch. And you may wonder about these two. These are actually slightly more upmarket ones, I guess. I'm not even sure. Also Yoko, nice shell. They have screws, so I may put some other tape in it because I actually like the way they look. But these completely clogged up my tape head. Whoa, the box is falling apart. Within 10 seconds of starting off recording. They sounded alright. They were also lacking 4 to 5 dBs compared to source. But they sounded better than the other one. Yeah, they weren't usable. They would have dropouts in no time and no more highs because the heads would just fill up. This one was recorded by a girl, I assume, named Soraya. At least a young person, because it was all recorded from a radio speaker. It's actually very sweet. You can hear them start everything. All of these Yoko tapes were, by the way. So someone recorded from radio using a microphone or a voice recorder or whatever. I think that is pretty charming. And not even bad music, to be honest. Some 80s rock and such. But these Yoko tapes are just going into the trash, except for 2. I'll keep 2 for the looks and put some TDKD in it or something, because I have plenty of those. But yeah, that was this tape test. Pretty cool. I was really surprised with the Memorex, and it got confirmed again that BASF was making really good tapes. This is a late one, by the way, because it has BASF by MTech on the box. So that's the later ones. Later they were called MTech for a bit, and then at some point they were bought by Recording Media Group International, RMGI, which then at some point was bought by Pyral in France, and then and then turned into RTM, Recording the Masters. That's all the same story. That's all BASF formulas. But it's really good tape. It's really good tape. So yeah, this was a fun one. Not too many surprises on the TDK front. That's exactly as I expected. The Yoko was a kind of a laugh. The Memorex really surprised me, and the BASF's just an awesome tape. So I'm gonna finish my tea and throw this all into the computer and share it on the internet and see what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts on these tapes. Have you used them? Did you like them? How did you use them? What did you use them in? Any memories you have, share them. It will be fun to talk about that stuff. And if you like this format, leave a like, leave a comment regarding that as well. And I may make a few more of these videos in the future because they're actually not that much work to make. I think 2.5, 3 hours, put one of these videos together. And I hope it's an enjoyable watch to all of you. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.